Today, I want to show you how to actually, literally go in to the very tools that I use to do my job with my customers. I want to show you how to do that in particular, about how to find the names of contracting officers who like to sole source to 8A small businesses. As we go forward, I want you to keep in mind that this training is not just for small businesses that are 8A firms. What I'll teach you, you can switch it around to find contracting officers like women-owned small businesses, hub zones, etc. So today, though, we're going to be talking about how to find contracting officers that like to sole source to 8A. In particular, this is really important because we're at the end of fiscal year 2023. Before we get started, if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When you follow a process, A to Z, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. That's kind of what I'm going to be teaching you today, right? What's the process for finding the name of a contracting officer or beginning to research a contracting officer's information? That's a process. And when you learn the process and develop that skill, then you have repeatable, predictable success at building your target list or your list of people to call. Make sure you're engaging with each other. This is your community. I'm going to teach you how to do something today that I think is going to be really helpful to your growth generally, as well as specifically in the end of fiscal year 2023. But while I'm teaching you, make sure you're paying attention to who's in the chat, who's saying hello, who's saying they're open to connections, and then reach out and say, hey, I saw you on Neil's training. I'd love to connect. What do I mean when I say finding contracting officers who love 8A small businesses? What is sole source? What is direct award? And I just want to put it in perspective. And I know that some of you might be farther along and you know this already. Don't worry, my tips will be solid for you. But let's just bring everybody along with us. So in the federal government, you can have competition where it's called full and open competition. Any business, large or small, can compete on an opportunity. And then we have these things called set-asides. So then the government says, well, these opportunities, let's set them aside for just small business set-asides. And then going with this 8A theme for today, the government contracting officer might say, hey, let's take this opportunity and set it aside specifically for 8A competition. Only 8A prime contractors can compete on this opportunity. The rest of us can team with them, but it's a set aside for 8A small businesses. Direct award and sole source says, hey, you know what? Let's forget about the competition. The idea generally when you sole source is that there's one source. That's why you're doing a sole source. That's why we call it also direct award. The government can direct award. Contracting officers can make the decision to direct award to 8A small businesses and a few other types. But for today, let's talk about 8As. They can direct award, meaning no competition. I have a customer just landed, I think it's like a $4 million contract, direct award, and the start to finish timeline was roughly 2.5 months. Right? And they just worked with the contracting officer to nail down the details. That's the advantage that 8A small businesses have. That's why it is a small business development program. The government is trying to give these businesses a start, a strength to their foundation. So when they come out of the 8A program, they can continue to grow as strong American businesses. So that's what direct awards are, what sole sources are. Let's talk about why it's really important that you know who the contracting officers are that are awarding to 8A small businesses. This is really important to me, and that you understand there's a difference between agencies and contracting officers who love 8A small businesses. These are the ones doing set-asides and direct awards to 8A businesses. I'll give you an example. That's the hub zone. The government, in particular SBA, loves to give themselves credit for how much money went to hub zone small businesses. $13 billion went to hub zone small businesses. That's nearly the amount that they expect from their goal. The problem I have with that kind of rationale, and the reason it's dangerous to even pay attention, is because only $1 billion of that $13 billion was set aside to hub zone. That means only $1 billion was done by contracting officers and agencies that love hub zones. The rest of it was just a hub zone firm acting like a small business or even just a general government contractor who went off and won it on their own. And then the agency and the SBA took credit for it. I'm not here to go down that rabbit hole because that's a soapbox I like standing on. What I want you to understand is don't look at all the agencies that have awarded to 8As under the company designation of 8As. I'm going to show you how you find the ones that actually love you because they're the ones who direct award to 8A companies. They're the ones who do set-asides before the fact to an 8A small business. They don't count it after the fact. Or, I mean, they do count it, but they don't lean on just that part, right? They're really determining to work with 8A firms. And you can do the same thing with HubZone, Woman-Owned, or SDBO, finding agencies that love your designation. So that's what we're going to cover down on the what and the why. And now I'm just going to go in 20 minutes. I want to show you how I gather this data through two main tools, USA Spending and FPDS. And as we go forward, what I'd like you to keep in mind is that I'm going to ask you in a little bit, who's got a NAICS code that I can go search. Don't put it in too early, because with all the chat, it'll get buried. But when I tell you, if you want me to try to look at your NAICS code to see which agencies love your NAICS code or what you sell, I can take a couple of those if there's time permitting. One last thing. Let me explain the difference between FPDS, which I'm going to show you. It's the Federal Procurement Data System, FPDS and USA Spending. Somebody asked me just, I think over the weekend, what's the difference? The difference is that FPDS is a data source, right? A source means that's where the data lives. Government contract officers put their awarded contract information into FPDS so that we can see it. There's some information that doesn't get put in there, like agencies who don't have to put it in, maybe the IC community, et cetera. But basically, FPDS is where all the information about contract awards is put. USA Spending is just a graphical interface, right? A user interface. If you're familiar with dashboards and business intelligence, it doesn't have any data. It grabs its data from FPDS and makes it look beautiful. I love both tools because you'll see it in a second. I can see stuff in USA Spending, and then I can dive deeper into the data with FPDS. I really want to encourage you to understand and learn these tools. You should know Google, you should know Excel, you should know how to use emails, you should know how to use LinkedIn, FPDS, SAM, and USA Spending, right? There's a couple other tools, but these are the tools of our job as government contractors. So take the time to learn them. By the way, if you haven't been to the Chamber's website, get over here and download these resources. Small Business Directory, the Supplier Portal, Long Range Acquisition Forecast. You can download these directories and a lot of good information. They're all free over there, along with a bunch of other stuff you can get from the government, or from us, excuse me. We're not government funded at all. We're self-funded. Okay, so I want to go through two main things. How do you find agencies, and then how do you find contracting officers that love 8A small businesses? And again, you can change 8A for woman-owned, veteran-owned, et cetera. So this is USA Spending. For those of you who are more familiar, yes, I'm going to slow down for a minute, and then I'll pick up speed. I want to make sure all of us come along as long as I'm doing the training. USA Spending, graphical interface to the data that's in FPDS. I'm going to just click this button right here in the middle. It says Start Searching Awards. When I do, I get a blank screen and I get some filters. And so I just want to zoom in here and show you the filters. I'm not teaching you every filter, but I'm going to show you the ones that I care about. When I look to see which 8A or which agencies and contractor officers are most likely to award direct awards, sole source award to 8As in FY 2023, so over the next 6-8 weeks, whatever it is, I want to look at the previous year. So I'm going to say FY 2022 over here. So I'm looking at last fiscal year's data, and I'm going to come up here, and the type I want, the second thing I'll do is contracts. Right? So I don't need to look at grants and some of these other things. I want to see, what did you award? And then a lot of information, I'm not talking about it here today, but the part I really want to pay attention to is down here. It says type of set aside. I want 8A sole source. That's the type of set aside I want. So I selected those three, and let me come up to the top. I'm going to hit submit search. And right here, you can see I've got three active filters: FY 2022, all contracts, and 8A sole source. And so let me move this up, and I might have to zoom in occasionally. So the first field I see is 16,000. I don't care about that. That's the data. What I want to show you is this. If I come here and look at the data that's in here, then I'm able to see, this is what I tell people, when you sort this data or show it by month, you can see that 2.6 billion was awarded last year in September. And that was direct award. That was not government contracts. That's not total small. That's not even total 8A. That was direct award to 8A. And in August, the month we're in right now, it was almost $1 billion, right? This is huge. And let me just pause for 1 second and put this in perspective. if I just go back and say, was this a fluke? Was 2022 unusual? No, it was not. If you look here, the same pattern basically plays out. We award less direct awards in October, the beginning of a fiscal year, than we do at the end of the fiscal year, September. So September 21, 2 billion plus. September 2022, 2 billion plus. This coming September 2023, I think it's fair to say there's probably going to be $2 billion in direct awards to 8A. That is massive, right? That is massive. And we're still in August. So 9 billion and 8 billion, 900 million and 800 million in August of the 2 years, right? That's a big deal. Let me go ahead and get rid of that year and just stick with FY 2022. So when I come in here, I can see the data looking this way, and I can convince myself that that's right. And the next thing I want to see, this is a high level, but I really want to jump to this field called sub-agencies, right? So I can see spending by awarding agencies. I'm looking at sub-agencies. I want to see at a lower level who's doing all that award. And you can see right here, this is $2 billion being done by the Army in 2022. This is a huge deal. And you can see Army, Navy, and Air Force. That's why DOD is so big out there. But as you come down, HHS is the fourth one, Center for Disease and Control Centers, or CDC. And so I've done a whole separate training on this one. You can look into it. But I've been able to filter it down. You can filter it a little bit more by just saying, show me August 1st, 2022, if I did this correctly, to September 30th, 2022. This was last year in the 2 months that we're basically in. So I'm going to hit that and just showing you the filter again up here. Oh, I did a mistake somewhere. Not sure what my mistake is. So let me just get rid of that really quick and do a date range, and I'll just pick it instead. So August, yeah, that's perfect. So August, and this one should be July or September. Okay, so that was live data. Sometimes the data gets messed up. All right. And one more time. Okay, sorry, it took a little longer there for me for some reason, but what I wanted to show you was you see the 2 months we're in. The reason I did that is maybe the agencies that are awarding in the end of the year are not the same who awarded all year. So here, when you can come in, you can begin to really see the agencies that are awarding. This is important as you start digging into the data, and you can dig further into the agencies. If all I wanted to do was to say, well, which commands within the Army, then I could filter down in USA Spending even more. But I want to go over to FPDS, because right now I'm in the USA Spending, right? And in USA Spending, I'm seeing all the direct awards at the agency level, but I want to begin to dig down further and get that contracting officer data. So I'm going to use this tool instead. So again, the Federal Procurement Data System, or FPDS. When we come in here, there's a couple of things I want you to pay attention to. In a minute, we're going to come back here and look at the help material, et cetera, because I want to show you something. But the first thing you do is just put your mouse there and hit enter. So in this easy search, I don't even bother searching. I just hit enter and I come in here. And the next thing I want to do is to begin to filter down fields. But before I do, going back for everybody else, I want to show you how I begin to look at, and I'll show you the stuff I'm doing in a minute, but how I begin to decide what fields I want to search. And if you don't know what fields to search, then how can you search, right? I want to show you how I discover what fields to search. I'm also going to tell you exactly which ones to search, but I want to show you the process I would use. Like if I came to FPDS for the first time, if I come to these items, and forget about the items in general, but just follow the process. If I click on this word view, I get an opportunity. I'm seeing that this opportunity came out. It's a $2 million opportunity. What I'm looking for is the data in here. And when I try to search in the future on specific data, and I'm trying to go into FPDS and say, show me a lot of data, well, what fields do I search on? Well, here is where I begin to learn about the fields. I'm going to show you another way, but this way makes much more sense first. So I come in and I can start seeing information, the solicitation ID and the ID numbers. As I come down, I can look at the dates. So when you see me filtering by dates, these are different types of dates. So date signed or the solicitation date. Coming down farther, right here, I'm able to see the codes. You might hear DODAX and other things, but these are basically just the codes that define the agencies that you see on the right. So it's all CDC over to the right. As I come down, I can see the contractor that won it. I can see their unique identification number here. And if I wanted to, and I'm trying to find out who they are, I can go to DSBS. I'm doing this pretty fast, but I'm just scrolling down in DSBS and I'm able to find this company. And there's Sophia. It looks like she's the owner of the company. I can quickly look at that opportunity I was just seeing to see that, yes, Sophia is the owner. Here's her contact information. She's an 8A small business, right? In 2 seconds, I'm able to find a lot of information about this opportunity, all because I saw this ID. And it's the same thing as you come down. The business categories, this one is an important one to remember. This is where I began to learn about, okay, the fields I care about are certifications or socioeconomic status. I'm going to go through this a little faster so I don't use up too much time looking everywhere. But if I come down here I can see the description. So I can see this as a SharePoint developer. I can see the NAICS codes and PCS that are used. This all helps me understand it. But the part I wanted to come down to is right here. It says type of set aside. And there's no set aside used, right? I like how there was only one source though. But this is where I want to pause for a second. I'm learning about these fields. And I'm like, well, that type of set aside, that's the one I really want. And I know it's 8A sole source because I've been doing this a while. But I just want to come back and show you that if you had gone to here to the help system, I'm just going to click on it really quick. If I clicked on help, I've explored this. You should read every single page. If you want to make millions off the federal government, then take the time to read every single page in FPDS help. It'll help you become an expert. But I just know that if I come in here, this is the one I was looking for. And remember, let me bounce back and forth really quick. What I was looking for is this set aside. Well, what are those options, right? And so I'm going to come here and I'm going to scroll really fast. So don't try to keep up. 1 second, coming down. Here we go. So down here, competition sole source. I missed it a little bit. It's right in here. Must be up one. Oh, I lost it. I lost it. That's fine. Sorry. You got to bear with me 1 second. I had it all laid out and prepared. I should have just left it open. Oh, there it is. F. So type of set aside. So what I was looking for is the values, right? And so in here, I can see certain things. For example, here's 8A competed, or down here, you see hub zone set aside. As you keep coming down, you see different things. Here's 8A sole source. So when I go to search certain data, I'm going to put it in. So if I wanted to search hub zone, I can just type in hub zone. And so let me come back here for a second and back up. So now I know that I want to create a search that's based on that type of set aside. So let me show you how you find a contracting officer this way. I'm going to say a new search. And the first one I want to type in is that type set aside. There it is on the bottom here, type set aside. And here I want to do 8A, right? So we're going to just type in 8A. And I'll hit enter. And when it comes back, I can see I have a whole bunch here, 1,179,000. I want to filter this down more. And so there's a field called action obligation that basically, date signed. That's what I'm looking for now when I look at something. So I'm going to search within the same results. And I'm just going to add a field here called date signed. And here I'm going to say I'm looking for this to be, let's say in the last 18 months or so. So 10/1/2022. So the beginning of the fiscal year. And I'll just say to today. So if I click on the calendar icon, I get this little calendar down here and I can say today, and it fills it in for me, 8/7/2023. And I hit OK. And so I went from 1 million down to 17,000, right? You can make the date any way that you want. So right now, I've got a lot in here. And what I like doing is sorting this out by action obligation. So if you can see right here, I've got action obligation. This is how you sort, right? So I'm going to say descending the biggest amount to the lowest amount by action obligation. So now you can see we've got $49 million contract at the top, et cetera. So as I start coming down, I can see more. The first thing I want to do before I even go in and show you stuff is, just like on USA Spending, I can see the departments that are awarding, right? Here's DOD, HHS. I can see how many awards, direct awards, sole source awards went to 8As. If I come down a little farther, I can see it by contracting activity, right? And so if I click on Department of Army, that just filtered me from whatever it was, 17,000 down to 3,046, right? You can begin to filter these down more and more as you go along. One other thing I might choose, and this is where I'm going to say, if you've got a NAICS code you want me to search on it, let me know. But here, I'm just going to try NAICS and then like 541511. Let's hope something comes up. This is perfect. So 46 items come up. I'm able to look at this. A $4 million set aside was done. If I come down a little farther, a $3 million set aside. These are custom computer programming. So now, how do I find the contracting officer's information? If I click on this, right here at the top, I can see somebody's information. This one's a little interesting because it's unique. Go back and watch training I did last week where I show you how to find somebody like that who has a weird email address and how to turn it into something real. I might have made a mistake and hit enter. Let me just check my data. So it's 17,000 still. I want to click on the Army. I'm going to copy this. And then let's come down a little farther to something else, like this next one. If I click on this view, here I can find Genie Bot, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, right? This is always a hit or miss when you're trying to do this live. When I do it in preparation, it comes up, and sometimes it misses out. But right here she is for National Guard Readiness Center, phone number and email. You can do your own thing, but all I did is went to Google and typed in their name. And if I just put Army, I get some more information, right? But I know that they're in the National Guard. That's how you begin to get a phone number. So here, right here on the top right-hand side of almost every opportunity is a person's name. Sometimes I get two names, which is awesome. Contract specialist and somebody else. Let me come back here because somebody else gave me a different NAICS code. And I want to see if I can get that one to show up for you. So the first one I saw was 541219. These are always interesting to do live. But the reason I'm doing them live is I really want you to understand how easy it is to use the tool. I'm moving pretty fast, but I just did a NAICS code. Let me Control A, Control C, so I don't lose that. But right here, I'm saying the principal NAICS code is 541219. And so that's coming up as other accounting services at 300,000. And remember, I'm not here to talk about opportunities. It's how do you find the KO who's sole sourced, right? So if I go back to the beginning, right here, you can see type of set aside 8A. Actually, let me change that a little bit. That makes it like sole source. Let's see if that works. Okay, so it's the same, but I just wanted to make sure it wasn't 8A set aside. It was 8A sole source. Let's go in and see if we can find that contract officer's name. So right there, Dale Neal. If I went to Google, I would find them. Sometimes you have to search kind of hard, right? But you start driving in. But I can see this is a bigger contract than it was a second ago. Let me do another one here. Somebody else was saying 337127. That's it. I don't even know what that one is. So let's 337127. Okay, so when we come up, and we're still looking at 8A sole source signed over a 2-month period, or excuse me, over the last 18 months, how many direct awards were happening, right? And so here, if I look at this one looks like it's coming from, I don't even know the agency. Am I missing it? Departmental offices. So I don't know who that is. I'll find out in a second. But if I click on it, so this one's a harder one for you. Okay, so it's HHS. It's in NIH. And I think that's National Cancer Institute. But let me just show you this one. This one's a little harder. If I was to do this person's name, there's nothing in here, right? There's nothing that's telling me. Let me go to Google really quick. And I'm going to type B space. And actually, let me do one more thing, NIH, and see if that works. So here, National Institute of whatever, I'm looking for somebody who's called Usleen. So this one's a little harder. It's not coming up. And it could be because it's just a user line item. right? User line item, they're just messing with me. Sometimes it's not in here. What I would do to find this contract officer is I would come down to the ID here, and I would begin to chase that number over through SAM or through, if you got some tools like GovTribe, et cetera, you can begin to find them out there. So let me back up for 1 second. I just want to say this again as you move forward trying to use the tool. First off, FPDS has all sorts of data, and a lot of us could teach you, a lot of us have videos, but you have a responsibility for coming in and learning. But how? How do you learn? Come to the training that they have. This training is not just, I don't even think it's really for industry as much as it's for the government. Understand how the government buyer is taught how to use the tool. And then go to the help section where you can find this kind of information. You understand how they're putting data in. Don't get frustrated, or if you do get frustrated, just try to get out of being frustrated, because sometimes the data is not good, right? Like that one person I just did, I'm like, come on, there's like, I don't know what to put there. If I came down to another one, let's just, oh, here's a $4 million one. If I clicked on this one, are we going to get lucky? This is the IRS. No, see, sometimes it looks like whatever this, what is this work for? Where was that next code? Actually, I just come down here. So it's just, because you give it, it's intelligence. Okay. And financial investigative services. So because you gave me a NAICS code that was a little more sensitive, maybe they weren't willing to share it with us. But if you take the time to come in and learn this, you will be able to use this tool to master the data. When you know the data, you begin to have control of your own destination in the future that's out there. So coming back and just restating this really quickly, as you move forward, when you want to sit there and understand which the name of the contract officer, et cetera, all you need to do is to come into FPDS and put in some of that key information, like show me the last 18 months or something. Choose your agency if you want, and do that type set aside. And somebody can put this in the chat for me. Type set aside 8A sole source. You can change that. If I change this to woman owned or a hub zone, let's say hub zone, you can see that it came up with 3 opportunities, right? So you can go see those companies or those agencies that are awarding. But this kind of information, you can find it in the chat. I did a whole post on it on Saturday with the exact code. But all you have to do is to begin to look at the data to find what you sell. Don't get fixated on NAICS code, by the way. Use keywords and other ways to find these opportunities, and then click on view. You'll find the information in the top right. By the way, if you're not a member of the sustaining member, GovCon Chamber of Commerce, consider becoming a sustaining member. Go over to our website. This is all the stuff that you get. I mean, you're helping us do a ton, but go over here and see what you're contributing and what you're helping folks be able to do. I hope that you found it helpful. If you have questions on my website, it's got an AMA. Just come over and ask me anything related to today's training. Happy to try to answer it for you. And just remember, government contracting, using FPDS, using USA Spending, all of it is just a process. Follow the process. You're going to have repeatable, predictable results. I'll see you in the next training.